More older men are staying single than ever before, not because they can't find love, but because they no longer see relationships the same way. Society used to push marriage as the ultimate goal, but that pressure is fading, and for many, that is a breath of fresh air. What changed? Is it financial independence, past relationships, or something deeper? The truth goes beyond dating apps or commitment fears. It is about freedom, personal happiness, and a shift in what truly matters. If you have ever wondered why so many men are choosing to stay single later in life, stay with me. The answers might surprise you. Welcome to AgeWise. Let's start. Chapter 1. The End of Traditional Expectations. For generations, men were expected to follow a simple path. Get a job, find a wife, start a family, and settle into a predictable routine. It was not just a personal choice, it was a societal expectation. Staying single was seen as unusual, even unfortunate, but that old script is fading. Today, older men are rewriting the rules. No longer pressured to fit a mold, they are realizing that a relationship is not a requirement for a fulfilling life. Many have already been married, raised children, and experienced love in its many forms. Now they are asking themselves one question: do I really want to start over? The answer, for a growing number, is no. Not because they fear commitment or companionship, because they have discovered something else. A life where their happiness is not tied to someone else's expectations. A life where they can pursue what truly fulfills them without compromise. And that shift is just the beginning. Once a man realizes he does not need to follow the old playbook, everything else changes. Chapter 2. Financial independence changes everything. There was a time when marriage was as much about survival as it was about love. A man needed a partner to build a household, share expenses, and create a stable life. For many, staying single was never an option. It simply was not practical. But the world has changed. Older men today are more financially independent than ever. Many have spent decades building careers, investing wisely, and securing their own futures. They are not looking for someone to split the bills with. They do not need a partner to ensure a comfortable retirement. With financial pressure no longer a factor, the decision to stay single is no longer about what they have to do. It is about what they want. And for a growing number, the answer is clear. Being single means freedom. No discussions about shared expenses, no compromises over spending habits, no conflicts over financial priorities. They are in full control of their money, their time, and their future. That level of independence is powerful. Some might see it as isolating, but for many, it is the opposite. It is the ability to wake up every day and make choices based on personal happiness instead of obligation. They can travel on their own terms, spend without justifying every decision, and focus on the things that bring them joy without worrying about how a partner might feel about it. This financial security also removes a major source of relationship stress. Many divorces and breakups happen because of money problems. Disagreements over spending, saving, and financial responsibility are some of the biggest sources of conflict in long-term relationships. But a man who has secured his finances and chosen to live on his own terms avoids those battles entirely. And that changes everything, because when a man no longer needs a relationship for security or stability, he starts looking at love differently. It is no longer about finding someone to complete his life. It is about deciding if he even wants to share it. Chapter 3. The Weight of Past Relationships. Every relationship leaves a mark. Some bring joy and fulfillment. Others leave scars that never fully fade. By the time a man reaches a certain age, he has likely experienced love in its highs and lows. He has seen what works and what does not. And for many, the idea of starting over feels less like a fresh beginning and more like a risk they are not willing to take. Divorce, heartbreak, and loss are not just events. They reshape how a person sees relationships. Many older men have been through marriages that ended in ways they never expected. Some have fought through painful divorces that drained them emotionally and financially. Others have lost a spouse, not just to separation, but to time itself. In either case, the thought of opening their heart again is not just difficult, it is exhausting. And then there is the reality of expectations. A new relationship often comes with a new set of compromises, responsibilities, and adjustments. For a man who has already lived through decades of making things work, the idea of doing it all again can feel more like a burden than a blessing. They ask themselves if the effort, the emotional investment, and the potential pain are worth it. Many decide they are not. But it is not just about avoiding pain. It is also about recognizing peace. After years of navigating relationships, some men reach a point where they find comfort in their own company. They are not lonely. They are content. They have built lives that suit them, routines that bring them stability, and personal freedom that they are not eager to give up. That is the part most people misunderstand. It is not always fear that keeps older men single. It is wisdom. The kind that comes from experience, from knowing what love requires, and from understanding that not everyone needs a partner to feel whole. And that realization leads to something even deeper, the value of personal freedom. Once a man embraces life on his own terms, the idea of changing that for someone else becomes an entirely different question. Chapter 4. The Value of Personal Freedom. There is a difference between being alone and being lonely. That is something many older men understand better than most. For years, society told them that happiness meant finding a partner, settling down, and sharing life with someone else. But when given the chance to step back and live life on their own terms, many discover something unexpected. They are not missing anything at all. Personal freedom is not just about doing whatever you want. It is about the ability to structure life in a way that feels right. No compromises over where to live, what to eat, how to spend weekends, or how to navigate family dynamics. Every decision is made based on personal fulfillment rather than obligation. For some, that level of independence is more rewarding than any relationship could ever be. It is not that they dislike companionship. Many have close friendships, strong social circles, and active lifestyles. They are not shutting people out. They are simply choosing how they let people in. And in a world where relationships often come with expectations and demands, the ability to maintain control over their own time and energy is priceless. For some, this freedom means traveling whenever they want. For others, it means pursuing hobbies, passions, and personal growth without worrying about how a partner might feel about it. It is the ability to focus on health, well-being, and self-improvement without external pressures. And perhaps most importantly, it is the removal of stress. No arguments over trivial things, no emotional roller coasters, no fear of another heartbreak or the complications of merging lives with someone new. This is why so many older men are choosing to stay single, not because they have given up on love, because they have found a different kind of happiness. The kind that is built from within, not dependent on someone else. And once they experience that kind of peace, the idea of giving it up for another relationship becomes a much bigger decision than most people realize. Chapter 5. Health, Energy, and the Cost of Commitment. Relationships require effort. They take time, emotional investment, and a level of commitment that can feel overwhelming, especially as people grow older. For many men, it is not that they dislike companionship, it is that they are prioritizing their well-being in ways they never did before. As the years go by, health becomes a greater focus. Energy is no longer limitless. Long nights, constant social obligations, and the emotional ups and downs of a relationship can feel more draining than exciting. A younger man might be willing to pour himself into a relationship even if it comes with stress and compromise. An older man, however, often sees things differently. He understands that his time and energy are valuable, and he is much more selective about where he invests them. For many, the idea of maintaining a relationship feels like work. The thought of learning someone new, adapting to their habits, handling emotional ups and downs, and meeting expectations can feel more like a burden than a joy. It is not about being selfish. It is about being realistic. Then there is the issue of health. Some men have chronic conditions, past injuries, or simply feel the effects of aging. They do not want to add relationship stress on top of managing their well-being. A peaceful, predictable life with minimal complications becomes more appealing than the uncertainty of a new relationship. And this is where many older men make a choice. Instead of seeking love in the traditional sense, they focus on what keeps them feeling their best. Regular exercise, personal hobbies, strong friendships, and a lifestyle that supports their physical and mental health. These things bring stability, while relationships often bring unpredictability. That does not mean they do not appreciate companionship. Many build strong social circles, engage in meaningful friendships, and even enjoy casual relationships. But the deep, all-in commitment that relationships require, that is something many choose to step away from, not out of fear, but out of an understanding of what truly makes them feel at peace. And the more they embrace this way of living, the harder it becomes to imagine giving it up, which is why, for so many, staying single is not just an option. It is the best choice they could make. Chapter 6. The modern dating landscape feels unfamiliar. For many older men, dating no longer feels the same. The rules have changed, and the experience can feel more like a challenge than an opportunity. Once upon a time, relationships were built through mutual connections, organic interactions, and long-term commitments. Now, the rise of dating apps, shifting social norms, and a fast-paced culture of instant gratification make finding meaningful connections more complicated than ever. Online dating, in particular, feels overwhelming. Swiping through endless profiles, deciphering vague messages, and competing for attention in a crowded digital space is exhausting. Many older men did not grow up navigating love through screens and algorithms. The process feels impersonal, and the idea of starting over in this unfamiliar landscape is not appealing. There is also the issue of expectations. Modern dating often comes with a long list of deal breakers, social dynamics, and unspoken rules that make relationships feel more like a negotiation than a natural connection. Many men feel like they are stepping into a world where they have to prove themselves, rather than simply being accepted for who they are. For those who have already experienced deep, meaningful relationships in the past, the idea of chasing after love again feels unnecessary. They know what commitment takes, and they understand the emotional highs and lows. Instead of jumping back into the dating pool, many choose to redirect their focus elsewhere. This choice does not mean they are unhappy or lonely. Many find fulfillment in strong friendships, community involvement, travel, and personal passions. They enjoy the company of others, but without the complications that modern relationships often bring. The more they step away from the dating scene, the clearer it becomes. They are not missing out. They are choosing a different path. A path where happiness is not dependent on finding a partner, but on living life exactly as they want to. Chapter 7. Companionship without commitment. Just because many older men are staying single does not mean they want to be alone. The idea that a man either chooses marriage or lives in isolation is outdated. The truth is, many are redefining what companionship looks like, finding connection in ways that do not require the weight of a traditional relationship. Friendships play a bigger role than ever. Lifelong bonds, casual social circles, and shared interests create a sense of belonging without the pressures that come with romantic commitment. For many, these connections provide everything they need: a source of laughter, support, and meaningful conversation without the complications of merging lives. Some engage in companionship without the expectation of a long-term future. Whether through casual dating, travel partners, or close friendships with emotional depth, these men have found ways to enjoy human connection on their own terms. They get the benefits of companionship without sacrificing their independence. Family relationships also become more significant. Time with children, grandchildren, siblings, and extended family takes priority. Instead of seeking a partner to fill a gap, they invest in the connections that already exist. This brings stability, fulfillment, and a sense of purpose without the stress of navigating a romantic relationship. And then there is the relationship with themselves. Many older men are realizing that they enjoy their own company. They have spent years compromising, adapting, and meeting the needs of others. Now they are focusing on their own growth, passions, and happiness. Society used to define success by marriage and family. But as more men embrace this new way of living, the message is clear. Fulfillment does not come from following someone else's expectations. It comes from choosing what truly feels right. Chapter 8. The Fear of Losing Freedom. Once a man has experienced true independence, the thought of giving it up becomes a real concern. Relationships are not just about companionship. They require time, compromise, and emotional investment. For many older men, that is not a sacrifice they are willing to make. Freedom means waking up every day with complete control over time and choices. It means deciding how to spend each moment without needing to check in with anyone else. After years of navigating responsibilities, family obligations, and relationship expectations, many men reach a stage where they do not want to give up that level of control. It is not that they do not value love or connection. It is that they have already seen what relationships require. They have spent years making decisions with someone else in mind. Now, they are focused on themselves, and that is not something they are eager to change. For some, it is as simple as not wanting to compromise. They enjoy their routines, their hobbies, their space. They do not want to negotiate over what movie to watch, what food to eat, or how to spend a weekend. They have built a life that feels good exactly as it is, and the thought of adjusting for a partner feels more like a loss than a gain. And then there is the deeper fear, the fear of giving up their peace. Many older men have been through difficult relationships, divorces, or emotionally draining partnerships. They know what it feels like to be in a relationship that takes more than it gives. The idea of stepping back into that uncertainty is not just unappealing, it is something they actively avoid. This is why so many older men choose to remain single. It is not about rejection, it is about protecting what they have built. And once they understand that their happiness is not dependent on a relationship, the choice becomes even clearer. But that leads to the final question. If relationships are no longer the measure of happiness, then what is? That is where everything comes together. Chapter 9. The New Definition of Happiness. For years, happiness was defined by traditional milestones. A successful career, a loving marriage, a home filled with family. Society painted a picture of what fulfillment should look like, and for a long time, many followed that path without question. But as more older men step away from relationships, a new truth is emerging. Happiness is not one size fits all. For some, happiness is found in freedom, waking up every day without obligations, answering to no one, and structuring life exactly as they want. It means being able to travel, pursue passions, and enjoy solitude without feeling pressured to conform to expectations. For others, happiness is about deep but selective connections, friendships that bring laughter and support, family relationships that grow stronger with time, and social circles that provide meaning without the emotional weight of a romantic partnership. The idea that love must come in the form of a committed relationship no longer applies. Companionship exists in many forms, and for these men, that is more than enough. Then there is the simplest kind of happiness, the kind that comes from peace. A life without relationship drama, without compromise, without the stress of navigating someone else's emotions. For many older men, this is the ultimate goal, not because they dislike love, but because they value the quiet stability they have built for themselves. This is why so many older men are choosing to stay single. It is not about fear, it is not about bitterness, It is about embracing a new way of living, one that is no longer defined by outdated expectations. And maybe the real question is not why they are staying single, but why more people are beginning to realize that happiness has no single definition. Conclusion: the truth about happiness and relationships. The world is changing, and so is the way men define happiness. For generations, they were told that love, marriage, and lifelong commitment were the ultimate goals. But look around. More and more older men are making a different choice. Not because they have given up on love, but because they have discovered something even more valuable: a life that belongs entirely to them. Some thrive in complete independence, waking up every day without answering to anyone. Others build deep friendships, travel the world, and pour their time into passions that bring them real joy. Many simply realize that peace, freedom, and control over their own lives mean more than the pressures of a traditional relationship. This is not loneliness. This is not avoidance. This is a shift in how happiness is defined. A new reality where men are no longer bound by outdated expectations, choosing instead to build lives that make them feel truly fulfilled. At AgeWise, we believe that getting older does not mean following someone else's rules. It means living with wisdom, confidence, and the freedom to decide what happiness looks like for you. So tell us, what do you think? Do relationships still define happiness? Or is there something even greater? Drop a comment, hit like if this resonated with you, and subscribe for more insights on life, love, and the choices that really matter.